So let's do a thought experiment. What would the world be like if cancel culture had existed in 1983? We're going to take an artist that I think we can all agree has been a force for good. That is Prince. Prince is a legitimate genius. He could play 40 different instruments and sing in 4 octaves. Some call him the American Mozart. Prince wrote pop songs, operas and ballets, directed his own videos. He could do the splits 32 times in a row. And not only did he give us some of the best albums of all time, but he was a secret humanitarian who gave countless millions of dollars to charity and told no one about it. He foregrounded and celebrated his female collaborators and blessed so many people with incredible careers who might otherwise have languished in obscurity. He gave hope to the people that no one understood, and he showed them that they too could light up the world just like he did, if only they believed it. But if cancel culture had existed in the 1980s, Prince would have almost definitely been cancelled for this song Extra Lovable from his 1981 controversy period. Content warning, rape.
I'm sorry, but I'm just going to have to rape you. Now, are you going to get into the tub? Or do I have to drag you?
So, of course, Prince didn't mean any of this. This is merely provocation, but the album he made around this time was called Controversy. So if it's not your cup of tea, that's probably the point. But you can add this to the fact that this man was slanging pipe. All the women on this cover were musicians, and one could easily argue that Prince was the beneficiary of a unbalanced power dynamic. Today you might describe someone like that as a sexual predator. Now the thing is, Prince didn't carry on making music like Extra Lovable, and he didn't carry on keeping a harem of women, if he ever really did. Now, here's the thing, Prince didn't change because of cancel culture. What changed him was the freedom to make mistakes, the freedom to develop and mature on his own terms. Cancel culture would not have given him that freedom. It would have just ruined him and made it very difficult for him to ever work again. And so we wouldn't have gotten Purple Rain, we wouldn't have gotten this 40-year career of iconic, incredible moments, and we definitely would not have got this thing where he puts on Joker makeup and asks us to keep busting.
Keep busting.
I have 2 more of these. Let's look at someone else. I'm an artist and a writer, so rather than looking at politicians, inventors, or medical pioneers, my frame of reference will be primarily rooted in the world of art. So let's look at the manga artist Katsuhiro Otomo. He spent a good part of the 1970s in New York City, and he entrenched himself in black culture. He named a whole series of short stories after jazz standards, and then he created Akira. This is one of the most inspiring, exhaustingly beautiful films of all time. Doja Cat says it's her favourite anime. Kanye West says it's his favourite movie of all time. Everything Kanye does seems to be an attempt to recapture the magic of seeing Akira for the first time when he was 10 years old. Akira began in 1982. The aesthetic seems to be inspired by, among other things, Michael Jackson's Beat It video from the same year, especially Kaneda's jacket. Michael would return the favour in 1990, recreating a scene from Akira almost shot for shot in his black or white video. And in the tortured howls of Akira's psychic children, Mike saw the rage and trauma of the disenfranchised African-American male. Mike doesn't turn into a Black Panther in this scene for nothing. Regarding Katsuhiro Otomo, you might argue that no filmmaker since Kubrick has had this much influence on art, fashion, design, and cinema, but it doesn't matter because Otomo would have definitely been cancelled for this comic from May 1980 about Robinson Crusoe, strongly thought to be racist against black people. I still see people trying to cancel Otomo for this today. While I'm editing, I'm just going to add one more thing. I've been in touch with Junya Suzuki, who is Otomo's chief archivist, and I asked Junya, the character Joker, is this it doesn't look the way Otomo normally draws African Americans, so is this a man of African descent, or is he like a dark-skinned Japanese man? And Junya told me that Joker is actually meant to be a Japanese man in blackface. This is something that no one has picked up on in 40 years. So apparently blackface was very common for in Japanese culture at that time. Andy Warhol did this cover for this blackface Japanese band. So you can see my point. Like, despite Otomo's deep and abiding love for African American culture going all the way back to the 1970s, and the enormous amount of love he's been shown by black culture in return, this is the angle that people, and it's usually white people, come at him with. They call him a racist, and it doesn't hold any water whatsoever, but that's how cancel culture works. People grasp for power in any disingenuous way that they possibly can. So, alright, here's some comic book inside baseball. One of the most prominent and beloved feminist cartoonists of the past 60 years passed away recently. This is someone I loved and I hope to meet her one day, and that is Arlene Kaminsky-Crumb. And in Phoebe Glockner's film Diary of a Teenage Girl, Arlene is seen as almost like a magical fairy godmother. Like, that was how big her reach was and how huge her influence was on the generations that followed her. And in the years shortly before her death, Arlene was disinvited from a certain popular comics convention. I'm not going to tell you which one. Why is that, right? It's because her husband is the controversial underground cartoonist Robert Crumb. And there was a social media backlash against her because of that. So Arlene's fans were robbed of the opportunity to meet their hero because, as far as the mob was concerned, her husband's identity was more important than hers. And that is like the most anti-feminist thing I can imagine, right? And that goes to show there's no thought behind the actions of a mob. There's no intellect, there's no consistency, there's no coherent ideology. There's only blind rage and the blind cowardice of those who capitulate to them. But let's do one more. I want to look at Alan Moore. Alan Moore wrote Watchmen, still considered one of the greatest graphic novels of all time. Alan's staunchly principled, anti-fascist, anti-nuclear, pro-humanist writing continues to resonate deeply into the 21st century. But that is the tip of a huge iceberg. There is Halo Jones, which inspired this song by Transvision Vamp, From Hell, which is a masterpiece, A Small Killing, which is another masterpiece, Artists Against Rampant Government Homophobia, Swamp Thing, and Grant Morrison, and V for Vendetta. This footage is from Hong Kong just 2 years ago. 40 years on from its inception, Alan Moore and David Lloyd's creation V has become a powerful symbol for protesters the world over. What's this about?
Animal rights.
Animal rights. Except, it wouldn't be.
Now, I'm going to read you a cautionary favour. I want you to listen to this intently, alright?
Because in 1978, Alan made a comic called Fat Jap Defamation Funnies, which is an ironic satire of racist tropes, which would have almost certainly been taken at face value in the present cultural climate. And Alan would be cancelled for being racist against Asian people. His comic Roscoe Moscow featured a homophobic main character, which received some backlash too. Back then, the editor gave Alan the floor to defend his work, and that was the last we heard of it, but that is not how that would have gone down in the social media age. Alan was also in an experimental three-way marriage that collapsed, leaving his partners to take the kids and move up north. Why did his marriage collapse? None of our business. But you can bet that today, a cancel mob would have made it their business and made up their own reasons. So if cancel culture had existed back then, you could smash cut to Fleetway, Marvel, and DC Comics being pressured not to hire the racist, homophobic, presumed spousal abuser, Alan Moore. Meanwhile, the future dies quietly on its arse. The point is this: making people look bad is an incredibly easy thing to do. Everyone on the planet, and probably even you, has something in their past or some aspect of their character that would make them eligible for some bullshit cancellation campaign if you dig deep enough, and if you frame their lives selectively enough. It's like Oscar Wilde said in his play An Ideal Husband: morality is simply the attitude people adopt towards those that they personally dislike. And this is true. Like, when it comes to our favourite media, there is so much that we let slide. Look at Hayao Miyazaki's entire body of work. Why is Porco Rosso in love with a 17-year-old girl? Why are these grizzled old air pirates in love with a 13-year-old girl? Why is this guy in love with an 11-year-old girl? And you've probably heard that Spirited Away's bathhouse is recognised by Japanese audiences to be a brothel, which is cool, but like, that would make this character, No Face, the 10-year-old main character's first client. So what are we supposed to make of it when the producer Toshio Suzuki repeatedly says in interviews that No Face is based on Hayao Miyazaki himself? Well, the thing is, we like Hayao Miyazaki, and we like Totoro, and we have all the merchandise. We just kind of practice cognitive dissonance, and we try not to think about it. And we do this with video games. Like, there is never going to be like a woke backlash against The Legend of Zelda, because people love The Legend of Zelda way too much. But when it comes to like the white savior trope, Zelda is a far worse sinner than Avatar. Zelda has these lily-white heroes that are saving the hapless natives over and over and overcoming the dark-skinned villains. And then there's something like Animal Crossing, which is beloved by online socialists the world over, and yet it depicts a repugnant hellscape where capitalism has won and no other way of life is possible. So how about Mickey Mouse? You probably knew that Mickey's design is rooted in what Ronald Wimberly would call aesthetics. Mickey Mouse is just Bosco the Talking Kid from the same year, but with mouse ears. But does it go deeper than that? Well, the song that Mickey whistles in Steamboat Willie was described at the time as a pseudo-Negro song. Then the song that he plays later in the same cartoon, Turkey in the Straw, contemporary audiences would have known it by another name. But even the vanilla version of the song includes lines like this.
Oh, yes, indeed, I know that a nigger do love turkey. And I know that a coon do love chicken. Wait.
Mickey Mouse cartoons then were recognised by the audiences of the time as just a cartoon version of the minstrel show. Minstrel shows were a very popular entertainment form at the time. So Mickey Mouse should, by all rights, just go the way of the Cleveland Indians mascot, but he won't, because Disney had put too many eggs in this basket. So they'd have to pull up their car parks and their solar panels. It's just baked into the fabric of their organisation. So it's lucky for them, then, that Disney fans have always just looked the other way about this. So Oscar Wilde is right about this, as he tends to be. We give our faves a free pass, but if we don't like something, then we will look for a reason to be horrified by it so that we can take it down. When you see someone being cancelled, while you're asking what did they do, you have to also ask yourself who is benefiting from this and whose agenda is this serving. Because the truth is, people are not their worst mistakes. They have infinite capacity and potential for change. And I hope that I've been able to demonstrate that this reductive, regressive, punitive doctrine of cancel culture is just as bad for art and culture as it is for humanity. And again, in case you're about to say that it doesn't exist, people lose their friends, their jobs, their families, they kill themselves. Cancelled people are even being murdered based on rumours and vague accusations. Journalists, as far as I can tell, are scared to report on this in case the cancel culture eye of Sauron turns upon them next. When you look at all these ruined people who've been thrown away and destroyed, and their wings clipped before they ever got a chance to touch the sky, just think about how it could have happened to any one of the people that you look up to, too.
One thing I wanted to say is don't be fooled by the internet. It's cool to get on the computer, but don't let the computer get on you. It's cool to use the computer. Don't let the computer use you. You all saw The Matrix. There is a war going on. The battlefield's in the mind. And the prize is the soul. So, just be careful. Be very careful. Thank you.